Welcome to another episode of Talk to the Fedora, chatting about hard-hitting, honest entrepreneur wisdom that you can use to grow your small business. My name is Jarrod Goldsmith from eSAX Networking and Sax Field Productions, and today we're very pleased to be welcoming community leader Jessie-Lee Wallace on our segment. Born and raised in Ottawa, Jessie-Lee has extensive experience in communications, marketing, storytelling, business development, along with a deep expertise in philanthropy, sponsorship, and advocacy. She's passionate about creating healthy and diverse cities and is always promoting barrier-free programs to vulnerable and historically underserved communities through affordable housing and life-changing services for individuals and families. As Executive Director of Volunteer Ottawa, Jessie-Lee creates impact alongside clients, partners, participants to develop specific, timely, and transformation initiatives and interventions that matter. Jessie-Lee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jessie-Lee. So, we see each other around the community at different events, and so it's always wonderful seeing the great work you and your organization is doing. Let's talk a bit about where you're calling in from, please.
Sure. Well, I'm calling in from our office, which is at the Rideau Hub, which is the former Rideau High School at 815 Saint Laurent. It's an impact hub in Ottawa, and myself, Volunteer Ottawa, along with 40 other nonprofits and charities call this place home. It's a really special place.
Wonderful. Actually, I had a tour there many years ago, and it was an old high school that was converted.
Yes, there's lockers still. It really feels like a high school.
It reminded me of The Walking Dead. You walk in, it looks like everybody's just out for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is still here. Most of the classrooms are still original. And that's where we have also our training hub that we have people in every week. So it's basically an old classroom.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. It's a great use of the facility. So Jessie, let's talk a bit about, I read a short bio, but can you elaborate a bit more on your background, who you are, and what Volunteer Ottawa is about, please?
Sure. So I started out in nonprofit about 17 plus years ago. And I started out actually, I was in a different profession and I switched into nonprofit because I wanted more purposeful work. My first campaign was the Ottawa Humane Society and their shelter. And then since then, I've actually done 4 capital campaigns. And along with my colleagues, I've raised over $50 million for the local community. And Volunteer Ottawa came on my radar. I've known about it over the years. But one of the board members reached out to me and said, we think that you would be the right leader at the right time for the next journey that this organization needs to take. And Volunteer Ottawa has been around for almost 70 years, but a lot of people still don't know about this incredible organization that helps so many. And it really connects thousands and thousands of volunteers to meaningful pathways to giving their time, talent, and energy, and helps almost 400 nonprofits and charities receive the people that they need, but also capacity building, education, shared services. It's a really impactful and special organization.
Well, let's make sure that people start hearing about this organization. It's been around 70 years. Wow.
I know. Incredible, right?
Yeah. And so Jessie-Lee, who would resonate most with the story that we're talking about today?
So I think everyone can benefit from hearing about Volunteer Ottawa, but individuals that have been feeling lonely, disconnected in their work, not sure how to contribute to their community, this is a great opportunity for you to get involved. This is an opportunity for you to think about, what does it look like for you to give your time and talent and energy? On volunteerottawa.ca, we actually have free resources, a free application for you to start. And also for nonprofits and charities, we're at a really pivotal point where almost 50% of nonprofits and charities are volunteer-led, and they don't have the resources necessary to do their work. So we really want to ensure that our entire sector thrives. And so this is a broad and diverse message, but honestly, the entire community, I think, could benefit from Volunteer Ottawa.
Sure, absolutely. And everybody says that working in an organization, charity, nonprofit, or even business, you don't work alone.
No.
How important is the concept of collaboration for you, please?
It's huge. And I would say I'm a relatively new executive director. I started in June 2025. So I haven't even gotten to my full year yet. But in the last few months, we've signed, I would say, at least a half dozen MOUs. We've investigated new partnerships, new ways of working, because we can't continue to work the same way that we've worked before. where we are constantly, and I'll say this as a charitable sector leader, reinventing the wheel that we don't need to. We can share resources, we can use templates, we can ensure that, you know, if one organization is really good at a particular type of programming or training, that we leverage our strengths. And so that's something that, you know, increasingly we're working on. So for example, we have a new project coming out that you'll hear about shortly. And it's all about how we support small emerging nonprofit charity leaders by using existing resources and connecting them appropriately. And so we don't have to reinvent everything. We just need to have better communication and networks.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important skill, especially somebody starting up a business or been in business for a few years, realizing, like you say, you don't have to do it all alone.
No.
Our resources and other organizations who are looking to help and collaborate.
And one of the things I also wanted to offer, if you are, you know, a business leader, an emerging business leader, someone that is interested in networking, one of the best ways that you can do that is to volunteer. If you want to broaden your network, if you want to delve more deeply into your neighborhood and community and also gain credibility and influence, give your time, energy, all of that. It will pay dividends.
Oh, I couldn't have said it better myself. I love networking. That's one of the things I'm known for.
Exactly.
So, Jessie, let's dive right into the networking portion. You've been around the community a long time before Volunteer Ottawa. What about some of your favorite networking tips?
Oh my goodness. So I think that I need to refine some of my networking, but I'll say this. There's a few basic things that I do every week. And sometimes I think consistency is key. So I try and reach out to 3 new people every week via LinkedIn, messaging, whatever. I also have a booking link that I have open to the public. So if someone wants to actually have 15 minutes with me, I'm always open to that, because I think meeting new people from different sectors is essential in the work that I do, because you never know when you're going to work with someone, and having the opportunity to figure out, you know, aligned values, shared interests, vision is so important. The other thing I do is on Fridays, I always have a coffee or a lunch. So, and in person. And so a lot of my networking is virtual right now, but that's really important. And then of course, like you, Jarrod, I go to a lot of events. And what I'm always thinking about, my lens that I assess whether or not I should be at an event, do I know everyone in the room already? If the answer is yes, then I actually will pause and decide if I want to go, if there's a reason, a strategic reason. Maybe there's a couple people that I have relationships with and I want to see them, and that's good too. But maybe I actually need to be in a different room where I don't know the people and I need to expand and broaden my reach. So sometimes we have to do that too.
That's a really good observation, because a lot of people are intimidated and shy. They don't know anybody and they get scared. Maybe people actually leave the events. But I've always thought, if you walk into a room, like you said, you don't know anybody, that's a good event.
That's honestly, if I walk into a room and I don't know anyone, I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yeah.
And now I will say I was not always that way. And so earlier in my career, that is not something that I think I would have prided myself on. But over the years, having been in so many different rooms, I realized something, that you belong there, no matter who you are. As long as you are present, you belong in that room. And so you belong just as much as someone else. And so ensuring that, especially for women, young women and diverse women, understand that they have a seat at the table just by simply being present has been something that I've worked on a lot.
Yeah, no, it's very, very key to get out there. Yeah, the first step is out the door.
Absolutely. You can't make progress staying at home.
Yeah. So Jessie-Lee, let's talk, continuing on the networking angle. You meet somebody for coffee, you meet a person at an event that week. How do you follow up with them? Like, what's the next step to connect?
Yes, I think I could get better at this. There's some electronic tools that help. Jarrod, you are an incredible example of this. One of the things that I do, though, is I typically slot on Friday mornings time to follow up with people. So I have it in my calendar. I do it early because otherwise, once my day starts, it just kind of goes off the rails. I'll send a very quick intro. I'll usually talk about a shared interest, and then I'll think if there's a next step. If there's no next step right now, because sometimes we're just meeting people and widening our network, I'll just simply connect and say thank you. Just a simple note of gratitude. But if I do want to see them again because there might be a shared project, a shared resource, potentially a contact, then I'm really clear about that and I ask for it up front.
Yeah, it's really important to further that relationship. Just because you see somebody at an event
Yeah,
doesn't mean they're going to collaborate or do business with you. It's going to
that's
take
right.
time. Yeah.
And we can't assume because, people are busy and they can't read our minds. So we really need to be kind, but be clear.
Yeah, AI's getting there, but not there yet.
No.
So, Jesse, let's talk a bit about mentorship or coaching. First off, did you ever have a mentor or coach?
I have been lucky to have many mentors and many coaches. Even now, I am actually in an executive coaching cohort because I always have something I have to work on. There's always something that I can improve on. And so that, 1% better mentality every day is something that I really espouse and I work on. So, Brenda Rothwell, I will say, Jacqueline Belcito of the Sense Foundation. There are so many women that have been incredible mentors to me over the years. Past bosses have been incredible to me. And also, not just women, men have mentored me as well and have given me opportunities and new challenges that, I'm just so grateful for. And if I hadn't been given those opportunities, networks, and even volunteer opportunities, I wouldn't have the same network that I have today.
So, Jessie-Lee, how do you find a mentor?
Oh, it's a great question. So a lot of women will come to me and ask for my advice. And one of the things that I always tell them is first, you need to find someone that has shared values, that you like their values, that you like the way that they work in the world. And then don't be shy, ask them for coffee. And if they say no, ask somebody else. And so the main thing is this, keep asking for that initial conversation, but don't ask for the entire relationship all at once. And I think sometimes when people are new, they are trying to get a relationship going without putting in the effort and the work to ensure that they have aligned values. So don't rush it. Make sure you have, the right person, and also come prepared. Know that this person's time is valuable, and know about their bio and their work, and be curious and be open to asking questions. And also, if they give you work or something to read or something to follow up on, be open to that too.
Yeah, it's so important to be curious because, I've met so many people who, might have heard of me, but they don't know anything about me.
Right.
And they don't know what questions to ask. Then I have to engage in conversation. So especially if somebody's looking for a potential mentor, one of the values of social media is you can look at them, or what's the word, creep, in a nice way, on LinkedIn and Facebook and Google them and come up with some speaking points, like do the research ahead of time. Yeah, very, very wise.
And I would say, honestly, don't have an ask for your first meeting. Just get to know them, because sometimes a lot of people that are in demand or have influence or have particular power in certain organizations get asked for things all the time. So it's really refreshing to just be with them.
Yeah. This is a really important point. At networking, everybody's trying to sell services and products and wares and just get sales pitches. But what about if people were to treat it more like you're suggesting, as like a kitchen coffee chat?
Exactly. Yeah. And also, you never know. And that's the part about being curious, coming back to what you're saying, Jarrod. You never know what you're going to discover. But if you are not open and you're so driven to get to your ask, you're going to miss the entire piece in the person in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at an event actually not too long ago, and we started talking and diving with the person's from Montreal. I grew up in Montreal, part of the West Island. I grew up there. We went to the same high school.
Yeah.
Years apart, and we were talking about some of the same teachers, and the whole conversation shifted from more of a business transaction to that friendship, relationship angle. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really matters, right? And I know sometimes we're rushed, but taking a beat, having a moment, taking a breath, really makes a difference.
Oh, I could go on and on and talk the whole time about this networking stuff. But let's move on a bit, Jessie-Lee. Thank you. Let's talk about some branding tips. So when you came on as the ED for Volunteer Ottawa, how did you approach the branding angle?
Okay, so I have a bit of a confession. I think that we might have to do a brand or a rebrand in the future. So for now, what I'm really focused on is telling our story consistently, clearly, and to a broader audience than we've done before, and using storytelling and very human storytelling to do that. So you're going to see new initiatives around that. From a purely brand perspective, though, I think, I coach people on this, and I think we could do a better job of it.
Yeah.
How do we give a 10-second pitch of what we do? How do we make sure that we're really, really clear on our positioning, but also our value proposition? And just like any business, charities, I think, need to be more business minded in that sense, so that we can't just assume because we're doing great work that we're going to get funded or donations or grants. We need to really be clear on the value that we are providing to the community. And that's a huge piece of it.
Oh yeah, I see it with Kiwanis all the time. People think they've heard of the organization, maybe, but do they really know the impact it has? And a lot of that comes from the branding. And I love what you suggested, the storytelling. It's such
right.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge difference when you can be clear on your brand, your visual identity, your brand consistency, your story. It does make a big difference, because then people will feel more connected to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Jessie, let's talk a bit about the concept of processes. You're running a big organization, lots of moving parts, hands on the ground, all these different events. How have things changed since COVID? I know you weren't in Volunteer Ottawa during COVID, but let's talk about the concept of processes.
Great question. So from my understanding, this organization was almost completely paper-based until roughly 3.5 years ago, which is wild to me. And of course, we had a website, and of course, we had different things. But a lot of the infrastructure that you see that serves thousands and thousands of people now was built out roughly, between 4 and 5 years ago. We've downsized recently because at one point, I think in the last 5 years, we had, 15 filing cabinets, which is wild, right? And so now we are completely digital. We are mostly a remote team. We do come in person and meet, on a weekly and often monthly basis. But we also need to acknowledge that work has evolved, that we can work differently, and that being out in the community is more important to us. So from a process perspective, we use more digital tools. We ensure that we have CRMs and other pieces that actually will speak to each other and shuttle information back and forth. We ensure that we also have better cybersecurity, that we have better protocols in terms of payroll and finance. So having manual processes will only get you so far when you're a particular size. But at a certain time, you want to invest more time up front to actually set things up properly so that you can grow and scale depending on the work that you're doing. And so that's what we've worked on in the last year, especially, is that we've made improvements in our infrastructure so that we can scale depending on project.
Yeah, very, very important. So when people are considering starting up a business,
yes,
you might be a bit more, to use the phrase, old school, paper-based. There's still some people and organizations that do it. That's fine. But what's the future going to look like? How much easier is it going to be to, like you say, to scale in 5 years down the road? Yeah,
that's it. And also thinking, I know people talk about AI, but there are some incredible AI tools that will help small and mid-sized organizations. So, for me, I use a particular AI tool to help sort my inbox and, record meetings, and to even help me sometimes draft basic responses and book meetings.
Yeah.
And that alone probably saves me about 10 hours a week. So not using these tools is a real disadvantage at a certain point.
Well, that leads great into our next question. You said it saves about 10 hours a week.
Exactly. Yeah. But you got to use it properly, and you have to spend the time up front to know how to use it.
Well, I should be chatting with you a lot sooner. Let's talk about some time management tips now. So would you be able to get a little bit more involved on that or issue, or how do you manage your time?
So everyone's different. So for me, there's a couple things that I do. One of the things that I think is really important is like the Warren Buffett list. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard of this process, but basically you start at the beginning of the year, ideally, or the end of the year, and you write the 25 things that you'd like to accomplish in the year ahead. So for me, I wrote my 25 things out. And then what you do is you go and you find out of that 25, what are your actual 5 goals for the year? And then what happens is that remaining 20 become basically your avoid list. You do not do those things until those 5 things are accomplished, and you do your very best to avoid all the things that come with it, because time management is often saying no and being really clear on your priorities. And I think at different points of our career, at different points in certain roles, we have to say yes more. And then we have to get more strategic and say no so that we can move our goals forward. So for instance, one of the things that I do is I try and block out a day where I have very little or very few meetings, because most of my meetings, I have anywhere from 7 to 12 meetings a day, most of my days. And so I have time for strategic work, deep work, making things. And then I also time block my entire calendar. And I find if you don't time block it, for me, then you don't make your tasks real. And I often will pad my calendar because I always think I can get more done than I can. And then the last thing is, every morning when I wake up, I write the 3 things that I actually have to get done today. And so my 3 things are, could be small, could be big, but they're the 3 things that I actually need to get done today so that I know that I'm moving things forward.
Yeah. Oh, like an action list. Like it's actually what I do, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'll send myself an email.
That's right.
A specific item that I need to do.
I do the same thing. Yeah. Because sometimes if it's stuck in your head, you need a system, so some people will do a voice note. Sometimes I'll do a voice note and then I'll send it to my AI note taker, and then it'll transcribe it for me and put it in my calendar. Like, there's different things you can do, right?
Yeah.
But the main thing is, if you have like a never-ending to-do list, sometimes it means that you actually just need to do less, delegate it, or just decide that some things aren't meant to be done. And so that's something as well.
Yeah, no, that's very, very wise. I mean, especially for small business, we're the window washer, the cook, the cleaner, the social media, everything. Yeah, but what can you pass off if you don't have staff? Maybe technology, AI, or use your time. Yeah.
And then what is going to be the biggest impact towards your goals? And so, I mean, part of that though is, what are your goals? So if you don't know what your goals are, that's also challenging. So having some time and reflection to really be clear on that helps. Yeah. And sometimes a business coach, or in my case, a sector coach, is really helpful for that.
Absolutely. Jessie-Lee, so we talked a bit about goal setting and, finding out where you want to be in a few years from now. Let's talk about where you find yourself with Volunteer Ottawa. What successes are you most proud of?
Thank you for that. And so when I arrived, the organization was actually going through a really hard chapter. And why I'm so happy is, we were in a difficult place. We didn't have a strategic plan. Financially, we had some real challenges. We also, our governance needed to be fixed up. And with the help of board members and staff, I'm happy to report that we actually, have a modest surplus for 2025. We're on sustainable funding track, I'm hoping, for the next few years. I think our profile has grown significantly, even in a few months. We have a strategic plan that we are now actively working on, and I'm going to share more about it this spring and talk about it widely. Yeah. And then we also have a full complement of really wonderful volunteers on our board of directors. So having those kind of like wins is not really just about me, but it's about how important this organization is to our entire sector. And so we all want it to succeed. And I love, that feeling when a group of people start pulling in the same direction because they're united by that shared vision.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think that governance. I mean, I've learned a ton, from being president of the Kiwanis Club of Ottawa, but it's almost like you have to get your house in order first.
Oh, yeah.
Before you're able to get out into the community.
And you also can't be nimble or take advantage of opportunities unless you have good governance. And so that's what people don't really understand. Sometimes they think it's like an afterthought, or it's a pain, or it's this, thing that slows them down. But no, if you have your governance in order, you can go faster. The critical decisions that need to be handled by an executive per se, or, by your board of directors. And then also, from a nonprofit lens, it's really clear from an accountability what I do and also what the board does. And that helps too.
Well, look, Volunteer Ottawa has been around, you said 70 years. So
yeah,
stay relevant for another 70. It takes this governance. Yeah,
exactly. And one of our passion projects is we actually have a self-paced nonprofit governance course that people can take. It's 6 hours. It's very, very comprehensive. It also talks about a lot of different angles. So, you know, diverse leaders, different backgrounds, different communities. And we also work actively to ensure that nonprofits and charities have the education they need to thrive. Because to your point, often they're doing 12 different things off the side of their desk, and they're not necessarily experts in everything, and we can't be. And so we want to ensure that they have the tools that they need, you know, to do better work.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of work, let's talk about the flip side of that, the challenges, even some failures. Like, how can you talk about adaptability, resiliency, work-life balance, lessons learned? Do you care to share anything like that?
Yeah, so it's a tough one. So one of the things that I was speaking about recently, I was one of our strategic investors, partners is the United Way of Eastern Ontario, and they invited me to a staff retreat. And one of the things I was sharing about at this staff retreat is why I haven't quit nonprofit yet, even though it's a really difficult sector. It's probably one of the most difficult sectors. There's funding challenges, resource challenges, all of these things. And it's because I do believe in the work. One of the things, though, that I shared with them is their rest is essential. And it is something that is essential to also our culture at Volunteer Ottawa. So, you know, we just onboarded a new staff member, and I told her specifically, there will be really busy times, but I don't want you to overwork, and we're actually fairly strict about it. So we have very strict sign on and sign off hours. We get you to track your lieu hours. You will not get extra credit for doing extra work after these hours, but you will get extra credit for doing your work within these hours and doing it well. And so it's changing our burnout mindset in nonprofits that I think is increasingly essential. And also there are so many different types of rest. Like I was reading a paper recently, there's 7 different types of rest. And so everyone needs to know what is the type of rest that they need to regenerate. And also, when do you need to have flexibility to turn off? And there are certain times where, you know, I ensure that I have a blackout from work so that I'm really, really present with my family, even if I have to work after, right? And so part of it is making sure it is a choice and not something that you feel is being pushed onto you, because that's also one of the requisites for burnout is like a lack of autonomy. And so finding opportunities for autonomy, setting your own schedule is really, really important.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that work-life balance is very elusive, but being able to specify certain times that are your times.
Exactly. And that you also ensure that you don't negotiate those, right? So boundaries are important, and that's tough, but when you practice that, you do have much better outcomes.
Yeah. And this speaks actually to our next question about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we kind of worked on the work-life balance, but how do people deal with organizations and mental health?
It's such a good question. So there's a number of angles that I think we could talk about. One of the things that I always recommend, and I think is really essential, if organizational leaders, even business leaders have not taken any type of training in nonviolent communication, I think it's really important that they do. Because nonviolent communication is a model that has been around for close to 4 decades. There's lots of different applications now, but it is a really good way of relating to difficult conversations without skirting around them. And it's also a wonderful way to create psychological safety in the workplace. So that's one thing. The other thing is, you know, encouraging people to have, you know, rest and time off, because they will do better and feel better and perform better when there is rest. And then from a mental health perspective, normalizing people also sharing when, let's say, they're having days that are not great. I remember one of my former bosses, Chantal Charbonneau from CHIO Foundation, she shared with me how, you know, there was these ugly pair of pants that people would hang on their door at one of the workplaces that she worked at, and they were the grumpy pants. And so when people were having like a bad day, they would hang the grumpy pants on their day, because we're humans and we're not always going to perform consistently, even if we want to. And so every once in a while we're going to have a bad day, but to acknowledge that grumpy pants day also, I think, is a graceful thing for our colleagues.
Yeah, yeah. It's a way to shine the light on it, but in a fun community way. Yeah,
Well, exactly. And respecting people's privacy and boundaries, right? So I think that's all part of it.
yeah, for sure. Jessie-Lee, what's next for Volunteer Ottawa? Let's put our hat 3 to 5 years from now.
So one of the things that I want to ensure that we do in my time here is to build our profile out, not just in the city of Ottawa, but in the entire region, because we actually serve the entire region, and to ensure that we are resourcing that, and also that our community knows that we're doing that. So there's a messaging piece. The other part is almost 40% of the individuals who sign up to our website to begin to volunteer are newcomers. But there's a real challenge in some of these newcomers gaining essential pathways to volunteering that often is relevant to their experience, their interests, their passions. So we have a number of pilot projects being built out to help them do that better. And the last big piece that I'm thinking about, well, two actually, is to ensure how do we get more diverse leaders, younger people, and women onto nonprofit and charity boards? Because sometimes we're seeing a lot of the same volunteers on certain boards. And what I would love to do is to ensure that we have way more opportunities, especially for diverse leaders from African, Caribbean, Black, and other diasporic communities to really chart paths, new paths for charities and nonprofits. Because by having all the same voices, we're not necessarily doing a service to our sector. And so it's a disservice. And I want to ensure that we have tools and technology that supports that. And I guess for the very last point is we're doing more, I would say, to advocate for the entire sector in Ottawa and the region. And so that charities and nonprofits, volunteer managers and coordinators know that we have their back, and that we're going to go to bat for them. And we're going to ensure that we speak at the municipal, provincial, and federal level to support policies that ideally will lift up the entire sector.
Yeah, no, that's very, very wise. And Jessie-Lee, it's starting to pay off because I'm seeing you at the different events. You Volunteer Ottawa has been a community partner of eSAX for a while now, and you're doing a great job really getting the brand known into the community. So please keep it up.
Thank you, Jarrod. Thank you. Well, one foot in front of the other, right? We can always improve, but I love hearing that. Thank you. It's
Thank you.
appreciated.
So Jessie-Lee, we're coming near the end of our segment. Is there something that you'd like to elaborate further on or touch upon, words of wisdom for others?
What I'd share is this. So when I'm out in the community and I'm speaking with people, I know that we are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. I can see this. So, we in some ways are the minority, Jarrod, where we're out at these events. We're with a lot of people. But let's say someone's listening to this and they have a neighbor, a parent, a family member that is isolated. I would really encourage them to reach out and to start volunteering today, because we know that volunteering is a pathway to connection. And since we are in the middle of this very huge loneliness epidemic, especially for young people and older adults, right, who are kind of like right on the edge of those two different life experiences, we want to ensure that we have a thriving community for everyone. And that's the first step. So you can always get them to sign up at volunteerottawa.ca for free. And that is a message that I'd want people to really think about. And also, volunteering can be as small or as big as you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment, but some action is always better than none.
Yeah, and you said it really well. That we're in the middle of an epidemic now of loneliness
and disconnection, and we can see that in the way that some of our civil society has frayed. And so we all want, a Canadian way of life is connection, community, and service, right? And so we all want to invest in that and ensure that people feel that it's for them too.
Wonderful. So Jessie-Lee, how can somebody get in touch with you to learn more about what Volunteer Ottawa does, please?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but you can always reach out at executive-director@volunteerottawa.ca, and I'm happy to connect.
Wonderful. Jessie-Lee, thank you. I'd like to thank Community Leader and Executive Director of Volunteer Ottawa, Jessie-Lee Wallace, on this episode of Talk to the Fedora. We hope that this segment has provided some wisdom that you can use to grow your small business. So please subscribe to the eSAX YouTube channel and be sure to check out some of the hundreds of other videos across multiple playlists for additional great entrepreneurial content. Jessie-Lee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Jarrod. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. For more great entrepreneur networking tips, subscribe to our eSAX YouTube channel, because eSAX makes networking work.